Hello, welcome back to the MMA Split Picks show for UFC 271, the highly anticipated rematch between Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker for the UFC middleweight title. As always, I'm your host Matt, here with...
Josh.
We're going to be giving our
No
picks,
Sly.
predictions. No Sly this week. He unfortunately is far too busy to be worried about picks. We will leave him to enjoy his skiing holiday, which means it's a two-headed race. And with initially 15 fights on the card, down to 14 fights, there's a lot to cover. We'll touch a little bit on the latest news and events and all the rest. We are recording this after all the weigh-ins have been done, so as far as we understand it, at least 14 fights should be as good to go can get. COVID's still a motherfucker. Anything can happen, but fingers crossed, right now we're good. And really, where else can we start than the main event itself? It's a rematch. It's another rematch for Izzy. It could well be another rematch he has to deal with after this fight, depending on how things go. And obviously, this is really, in my opinion, Izzy's a rematch against the guy that Izzy had his best night against. And for Rob, that was his worst night. So you and I have discussed this beforehand, even before this fight was announced. We kind of felt that of all the rematches that you could do with Adesanya, this is the one that gives you the most sense of what could potentially be different. You look at the fact that the guys basically beat anyone else pretty comfortably that's in this weight class. The real question is the gap going to be closed, and is Rob being better going to be enough for him to still be able to get the win, assuming that Izzy's also had a lot of growing experiences as well? Straight off the bat, where's your kind of mind sitting at the moment?
So before the first fight, I honestly felt like Bobby Knuckles was going to run through him. I thought the pressure, getting Izzy to fight off his back foot and being able to sprinkle him with takedowns was going to be too much for him. After the Gastelum fight, I really started to think that I had misjudged Izzy's ability to fight off the back foot going backwards. The guy's dangerous everywhere. He really is just about the best I've ever seen in terms of pure striking. Oof. It's going to be a lot closer. Whittaker was very burnt out before the first fight. It was pretty obvious watching him fight. He was just barreling in with no semblance of a plan. Really looked out of it. Chael Sonnen said he looked petrified. I think everyone kind of agrees with that. He definitely wasn't in the right headspace. And since then, he's been lights out. He hasn't necessarily been at his peak, but in terms of mentally controlling fights and just the way he's handled all the media obligations and everything, this is a very different Whittaker. It's a much calmer Whittaker, much more reminiscent of Rob on his original title run. But it's Adesanya. He just looks so much better every time you see him, really.
Well, I don't know. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say. Oh, we're doing this crossover. You go first. I insist.
There's a delay. Well, I was going to say, I could give you my full thoughts on the fight, but I've been going on too much. How do you feel about Whittaker this time around?
Okay, so obviously, based on the admissions that Whittaker's made since the first fight, that his ego got to him a bit, the pressure, the mind games, everything, the fact that he'd been quite inactive and had the injuries, and the fight postponement with Gastelum didn't help. Obviously, as a result, I'm looking at his mental state a lot during this. And the press conference was very interesting because you could tell Izzy had a few little barbs that he had planned. He had some little things he was trying to do to unsettle Rob. For example, he had an NFT attached to like a little NFT video on a mini player that was basically attached to a necklace chain that he was wearing. And it was an NFT clip of about 1 second long of him knocking Robert Whittaker out just on a constant kind of like never-ending loop and repeat. And obviously he'd worn that as a way to try and see if he could have a little dig, if he could unsettle Rob a bit. And they were both pretty chilled with each other, to be honest. I mean, Whittaker went down the path of being very hands up. Hey man, he beat me. He can talk all the shit that he wants. I'm just excited to see where my skills have tested compared to the last time. And I think it was the right approach for him, man. I wouldn't say it unsettled Izzy, but it removed that ability for Izzy to feed off that kind of animosity. And to be honest, they were both reasonably respectful of each other. They're still going to say that they're going to win and all the rest, but I thought Rob did an excellent job of just kind of not rising up to it, but actually diffusing those things. He basically killed Izzy with kindness a little bit. And mentally, I think he's really ready. I think if it's a striking match, Rob still loses. I don't see a situation where them in a kickboxing exchange, no matter what tactic he takes, ends up with it working out well for him, because he hasn't got the length and the size of somebody like Jan, for example. So you can't just sort of not go first and still be able to be effective. And he doesn't hit as hard as Jan as well. It's all going to be about the wrestling. Now, I don't really think that Rob can take him down just second time. It's not, he's not a Khabib elite style wrestler, and Izzy's got excellent takedown defense. It's going to have to be sort of like what he did to Darren Till, what he did to Cannonier, where it's just constantly mixing things up. First you go for a takedown, then it goes to a leg trip, then the next time you swing an overhand, and just give Izzy so many different questions to answer, because with the feints and the movement and the creativity, Izzy just with striking alone can overload guys with so many different looks and problems and potential weapons coming at them that they can't deal with it. Rob doesn't have that many weapons, so he has to use the wrestling threats as well to be an extra bow in the string as well.
What he does well is arranging combinations for the game plan and staying very busy with things. He'll love putting the head kick at the end of like a 2-3 punch combination. And you could see that was the game plan in the first fight, was to like set up the level changes with the striking, keep mixing up and be a threat. But he looked like a headless chicken in there, which is barreling in, jab, overhand right, sloppy takedown attempts, reset. Like, I think he will be able to get Izzy down. I don't think he's going to be able to keep him down. Izzy can be, Jan's pretty fucking big, and Izzy didn't go into that fight as a true heavyweight, and that's why he was pinned down. But from what I saw of Izzy, I really believe he's going to be able to, get the butterfly guard and just keep working and get back to his feet against Rob. I don't think Rob's going to be good enough to keep him down. So
he showed a lot of
improvement. A lot of effort.
Against Vettori, he showed a lot of improvement in reversing position.
It's going to be a lot of effort to get him down. He's going to basically be losing on points to get that takedown. He's not going to be able to make up the ground if he does when he does get him down, and he's not going to be able to finish the fight very easily at all from that position. So for me, I think Rob Whittaker is absolute best. Can give Izzy a close night on a bad night, but he seems pretty prepared. He just became apparently the most lucrative MMA deal.
Massive contract, mate. He's
not
earning.
Do you know what it is?
He's not said how much it is. All I know about it is that it's a lot.
It's going to be a lot of points on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think in terms of base, I think the base is even maybe more than Conor was officially, but he's not quite earning Conor money in terms of all the added stuff and points on the revenue that come through. But he's getting more points. I don't know how many fights it is, but it's a big contract.
It's crazy. Kind of was it like 9?
Sorry?
Let me check. I'm sure I read that it was 9 fights.
I could see them doing that. Like, we'll give you the big contract, but the deal is that this is locked in for a while. You can't be renegotiating every 3 fights or something like
that. I mean, with the way they do the contracts now, because they've been getting worse and worse, you really can't, because it's so easy for them to just punish you and just completely box you out. And Ngannou, is very fortunate that he's only really going to have to wait it out for 1 year to potentially avoid the extension. But yeah, oh shit. You know what? Forget about it. I probably read it on Reddit or something like that. Read it on Reddit. That rolls off the tongue. I don't know how many fights to be sure.
It's a few fights. It's a lot of money. Man is getting paid. Fair play to him. Unlucky for the UFC if he suddenly just loses all of his form and goes on a massive losing streak and they're still paying him fucking McGregor money. But I don't really see that happening. Prediction? Izzy's too good. I love Rob. And I would, in terms of what I would want to happen, it's hard because these are literally like my two favorite fighters at middleweight. And it's that feeling of, well, if Rob wins, you get to have this truly great rivalry, a trilogy fight, recognition of what a great champion he really is. But then there's always that side for Izzy where it's like, this guy is, okay, he lost in the Yarn fight, but there's circumstances that are understandable for that. And you kind of feel like he could surpass Anderson Silva. He has got that in him. But he can't really, it's like once you set your sights that high, once your goal is that ambitious, you don't really have that many bumps in the road if you really want to take that kind of consideration.
What bumps are you anticipating?
Well, what I'm saying is that if he wins a fight like this against Rob Whittaker and basically sort of like seals the record to a certain extent against probably the next most dangerous guy by a long shot in the division, it's just it makes me think that he will then just go on and he could have another 5 title defenses until maybe a comes up pops up or something like that before you really see somebody challenge him. Whereas if he loses this fight to Rob, straight away you kind of remove that kind of Anderson Silva comparison to a certain extent, because he won't have that Anderson Silva, 10 defenses in a row element to him. Yeah. And if you're setting your sights at that extremely high level, that it's such a high goal that you can't really make any wrong turns.
It depends. If we're looking at it just as a champion or as a conversation for the GOAT, I think ultimately it's going to take some of the tarnish off not having a consecutive streak. But if he gets back to the top of the mountain, people are still going to understand how good he is. Silva's always going to have that asterisk next to his name, just because of the PEDs.
I don't think that's
that. I mean, you can make people can make all the allegations they want about Izzy, but he's never popped. And
his titty look normal. His titty didn't look like a titty. He even kind of squeezed it, so I think he was kind of pointing out, "Look, you motherfuckers, it's not there."
I don't know. He said it's because of weed. I smoke a lot of weed. I got titties. That makes sense.
Yeah, I smoke a lot of weed. I got titties.
So I don't know. I need more concrete evidence. I need him to test positive at least once. I need at least one sketchy test result.
I kind of feel
Silva didn't disappoint you on that front. He was more than willing to provide.
The only thing I'd say with Silva, man, is that he didn't pop until well after his title reign had ended.
Yeah,
you can't assume
until USADA.
Well, no, until he had a double leg break.
Oh, okay.
You don't know what he felt he had to do to try and get back from that. I mean, he fought. Yeah. It was the Diaz fight.
We also don't know. Like this is the problem, right? It's like as soon as you invite people to question things, like, do you believe Dillashaw took EPO the first time to cut down to 125? I don't. And I don't believe that the first time Anderson Silva popped was the first time he had taken it. I think, and again, it's kind of like a culture thing, because back in his heyday, if rumors are to be believed, the majority of athletes were juicing. So,
well, there's two arguments.
It doesn't make it fair.
I don't think you can say that Anderson Silva was not competing on a level playing field, if not slightly disadvantaged in terms of dosage and whatever fuck people are taking at best, at worst even. across his title reign. I don't think that is tarnished in any way, shape, or form, my opinion personally. In terms of today, after the titty popped up, you've got to think that they were testing Adesanya a little extra. And you also have to think that if you have if that is like some weird form of gynomastica where it only pops up on one tit, surely that presence alone would give you enough of a hormone imbalance or whatnot to pop up some big fucking red flags on the blood test. That would be my assumption. You know what I mean? It's like we're
Yeah,
beyond
and they do
like
the blood
picograms.
passport thing. They do like the long. They track all of the testing as well. The idea being that they can catch you when you cycle off and things, I believe. But
Exactly. Now, the other side of this, and if you've watched the documentary Icarus, which being a fan of sports documentaries, I imagine you have, it's not that difficult to, if you know what the routine is, people know how to take drugs. And I think more athletes than we think, in fact, I think the vast majority of athletes could very well, not are, I do not know that, could very well be on performance enhancing drugs.
they've made it impossible for us to lean too heavily either way.
Yeah.
It's so much of a fucking grey area because pharmaceutical cheating is so fucking advanced versus the testing procedures. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, Carlos, he's the guy that popped recently at heavyweight, Carlos Felipe,
Yeah.
where he's got like, and really, you should know, it was like, this guy, he's kind of fat and tubby, has the most ridiculous cardio that you've seen, just never stops throwing punches at heavyweight division. The only guy apart from like really fit, clearly in good shape guys that can throw in this kind of combination at this pace. Oh, and it turns out he's taking PEDs. You know, I think sometimes you can kind of connect the dots. So, like, I'm not going to say anything too harsh, and I'm sure there's factors for it. Now, how many times have we seen a guy where he has a decent physique? You know, he certainly looks in shape and he looks strong as he's coming through. And then suddenly, as he gets like a decent contract and he's breaking into that top 10 for his next big fight, he comes in and he's just a fucking iron, you know, marble sculpture of a human. And you kind of think to
Yeah.
yourself, like, yeah, I guess that's all just your new nutritionist. Wow, he or she's done a great job.
Yeah, or fucking seeing it in reverse, just seeing what happened to Overeem, Belfort, just you know, once they couldn't get away with what they once had been getting away with physically, it's like they aged 10 years, maybe even 20 years in the case of Overeem. Ubereem to Overeem is a weird fucking transition.
It's very weird.
Weird.
The other factor I'd say with Izzy, and this is a big thing, is I feel like the type of person, and I might be wrong on this, but the type of person that would take a performance enhancing drug either does it because they feel like everybody else is doing it and this is what they have to do to match, or they're the type of person that is willing to exhaust every single potential advantage in the name of victory. And I don't think that Izzy really falls into that category. You know, it's that kind of person is the person that is like, I'm at the maximum weight I can be. I'm pushing my weight cut as far as I can do and still perform to have as much weight as possible. It's that type of attitude, you know. And Izzy's not that guy. Izzy tried to become the light heavyweight champion with basically a middleweight physique, making no physical change to go up in weight class in his first ever MMA light heavyweight fight.
Because cardio requirement is very different because he will take 1 step to every 3 steps you take. So he can just have like really good cardio. You need to be like Michael Bisping times 10 to fucking match it over a 5-round fight because you will have to move more. He is faster, sharper, and the only way to get in the inside is to move your fucking feet while he's just standing there, just pivoting here and there, little slip and counter. It's beautiful.
Well, the point I'm making is that this isn't the profile of a guy This is
Yeah,
the profile of a guy who believes in his skill set so much that he stacks the odds against him. That's not the type of character that then goes, I really want to have the odds against me, but try and give me some illegal drugs. I want to have an edge.
yeah,
It's not, it wouldn't fit with his characteristics. It wouldn't fit with his personality. It wouldn't fit with the chip on his shoulder of being the skinny guy.
yeah. It doesn't make sense to skip the weight cut so as not to have a detrimental effect on your cardio if you're also trying to gain the biggest strength, power, and cardio advantage you can through EPO or a different kind of PED. I'm singing to the choir, preaching to the
Yeah.
choir. Can't get the analogies right, but yeah, I'm completely with you. Something about both going the same way on some kind of carpool.
Something like that. Let's do the predictions. I'm going Adesanya. I think this will be a decision win because I think he's going to respect that Rob's going to be better, doesn't have the same kind of pressure, and as a result, I think he's going to be much more safe. And he's the champ now. You fight safer,
Yeah,
I think, when you're the champ.
I
Rightly so.
was
Rightly so.
I was to and fro between decision and KO. Ultimately, I'm going to go Adesanya KO. Rob's going to have to stay too busy trying to pressure him and throw in the level changes. It's impossible to fight the way, and he's very, very good at keeping his head moving on the way out of combinations and not just sort of like keeping his head in like one place. He hasn't got that sloppy head movement that's like going to open up the kicking game for Adesanya. He moves his whole body, he moves his hips constantly, keeping like the head balanced and away. Even so, there's a speed discrepancy, there's a striking, just technical discrepancy. Adesanya KO. I don't feel strong about it. I had to make a decision. I've tried to justify it.
No justification needed, mate. And no justification needed for your pick on the next fight because fuck me, you want to talk about a toss a coin in the air, flip him, and see what happens. Derek Lewis versus Tuivasa. On paper, I feel like this should be Derek Lewis's. If anything, this will favor him from the fact that Ty will be a willing guy to stand in and trade and just won't have the same guns. But, and this is a bold statement, but I think Tuivasa enjoys fighting and the mixed martial arts side of mixed martial arts a lot more than Derek Lewis does. Derek Lewis likes knocking people out, but I don't really think he ever looks particularly comfortable in a fight. Whereas I think Tuivasa looks extremely comfortable in the fight. I think he's got much better, he's got faster hands. I think he's got better fundamentals. And we're in Texas. We're in Houston. This isn't a good thing for Derek Lewis. It doesn't bring out the best in him. He feels pressure. So that makes me nervous about this. Josh, your thoughts before we give the pick?
And honestly, I know Tuivasa took this fight when he was drunk.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. It's the first thing I know about this. Look, Tuivasa has good knees as well. Got pretty good cardio for a guy his size. They both come in at, I think, 265 and 266 respectively. And he's got a much better shot of executing a similar kind of game plan to Dorcas than Dorcas ever would have. But I can't see it any other way, mate. It's got to be Lewis by KO. Lewis is looking pretty good. I was a bit disappointed when he started piling the pounds back on because I really like the more kind of trim Lewis. But honestly, he's been making it work. He's been looking good. And I don't think it's a case that he's just kind of getting fortunate or, he understands he's probably number 3 in the division. I think he also understands that unfortunately he's number 3 by a little ways, and he is going to end up getting a rematch with Ngannou if he resigns, or with Garn at some point. Assuming that actually, you know what I say is the number 3 guy in here. I'm completely discounting Miocic. I don't know why I'm doing that. Out of the active fighters,
I do not necessarily believe that Derek Lewis could not beat Ngannou. Really
Yeah,
don't.
it's a weird one. I know he would want that fight if he resigns. I think then Derek Lewis gets a lot more vocal about taking another 5-round fight, but I think it's more likely, to be honest, that he's going to end up seeing someone like Garn, Miocic, or Jones for an eliminator or a title shot not soon after this one. I know Tuivasa is not high up in the rankings or anything, but you keep winning and you keep knocking down the prospects. Shit, there's only one way to go. It's up. I think Lewis wins this one. I really do. I love Tuivasa. I don't want to see him drink a beer out of Derek Lewis's cup like he's threatening to do. I don't think it's going to
There's
work.
so many things that involves that would just be too wrong, because not only would it just be a little bit disgusting, but that would involve Tuivasa having to basically use one of his hands to pull up Derek Lewis's shorts, use the other hand to reach in and grab the cup off of Derek Lewis's cock, pull it out, and then do this. And I'm pretty sure during all of that on live TV in front of 20,000 people in 2022, there is some level of sexual assault that has occurred in that instance.
I think the plan is for Lewis to relinquish the cup.
I don't
The thing is, though,
think
you know how hot his balls get? That's going to be a warm beer.
Caramel latte,
That's
I think,
going to be
is
a
the
warm
description that's been given.
Ugh.
I know. It's a horrible thought. I'm also picking Derek Lewis by KO, but I'm not as confident as I would be if this fight wasn't in Houston, Texas. That makes a big difference for me. But really, with Derek Lewis, as you say, he's doing well. If you take the gunfight out of the picture, he's looked outstanding. It's like 6 of the last 7 fights he's won really impressively. Maybe 5. I don't know if you can do a little check for me.
Yeah, let me bring it up.
Maybe he's 5 of the last 6.
Yeah, 5 of the last 6. Which, aside from, I mean, it really depends how you rate these guys. You can only fight who they put in front of you. And since losing a JDS, he's beaten Blagoy Ivanov,
Beast.
who's underrated, to be honest. Ilia Latifi,
good fighter.
who is a bit underrated, but he's a light heavyweight. Let's not kid ourselves. Alexei Oleinik, who is fantastic if he gets you down on the ground, but he's really, really old. So it sort of is what it is. Curtis Blades, good win. Great fucking win. Great fucking win. Loses to Gunn. Beats the brakes off Dorcas. Yeah. He's looking good. He is looking fucking good.
I think the real question for this as well is I know you don't want to do MMA math, but put Tuivasa in Derek Lewis's shoes against Chris Dorcas and ask yourself if, even with Tuivasa's punching power, if he could have just gone through Dorcas the way that Derek Lewis went through him. And I don't think the answer is yes. He may still have knocked him out. He may still win that fight if that fight ever happens. But it's just one guy's showing up with a bazooka and the other guy's showing up with a shotgun. And the guy with a shotgun thinks he's got a big gun, but he's about to see what a big gun really looks like.
No, it's more like the the Untouchables. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's a better comparison for me. Derek Lewis has guns, everyone else has knives.
Yeah.
And Ngannou has a gun.
Both guys have been fucking hilarious in the pre-match stuff, as per usual. There is now a Tuivasa that you can purchase. They're about to go on sale. It's a plastic shoe-like instrument that you can pour beer into. So if you don't want to have to use a dirty shoe, you can just get a Tuivasa.
Oh my god! Do you know what? Right? I heard in a meeting this week at work a guy talk about how he sold a patent for socks with pockets, and I was like, that's so fucking stupid. But even that's not as dumb as actually commercializing little plastic shoey vases. It's just so not in the spirit of what you're trying to celebrate.
I know.
That's disappointing. That kind of hurts me inside where my heart is. I don't like that. Don't tell me about stuff like that anymore. It's not cool.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. We'll move on to Cannonier versus Brunson. Or should I say Cannonier versus Super Saiyan Brunson? Because ever since that guy's hair went blonde, he has just been on a different power level. He's been an underdog in pretty much every fight. He's won every single fight pretty fucking convincingly with just simplified, wrestling heavy takedowns and domination. And each time you think, no, this is going to be the guy that does it. Shabazian, he's the hot shot. He's going to come through and just roll through Derek Brunson and get his way up to a title shot. Nope. Darren Till, he's a middleweight. His only loss on middleweight was to Rob Whittaker. It was a close fight. This is his moment. Nope. I don't know what more you can say at this point. Brunson's the man, and I really like Cannonier. Used to be a heavyweight, went down to light heavyweight. Now he's at middleweight. Only losses, only loss at middleweight, I believe, is to Rob.
No, didn't he also? Not ignore me. Yeah, just Rob. Yep.
Just Rob.
Bang
So
on.
he's looked really good. I mean, he was struggling in the Hermanson fight, but then he got an unbelievable knockout. Really dominated Gastelum, who took the fight on short notice. Obviously, there was the Anderson Silva fight where Anderson Silva injured his leg from a leg check, which does happen. You know, I mean, what can you do? So
Cannonier himself did he go into the Whittaker fight injured, or did he just mess his knee up in the Whittaker fight? I think he messed it up in the fight, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know Rob throws some kind of oblique kicks, so it's possible that he fucks his knee up with that.
Yeah, he does the old Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero spammed that in their first fight, tore his knee up, and ever since then, Whittaker's been like, "Fuck other people's knees." Then,
yeah, pretty much. But Cannon is a really good fighter. He's kind of had his swan song and he's entered the sport quite late. He's like 37 or something like that. He's certainly not young, but neither's Brunson. So this is going to be a real striker versus, power striker versus wrestler matchup. One of the things that makes Cannonier difficult for somebody like Brunson is he's a very patient striker. He likes throwing leg kicks. He throws them hard, very Muay Thai stance, tight guard, and he's not giving a lot away. He knows he can knock you out with one shot, so he will be patient. And for somebody like Brunson, that kind of forces him to not get as many bites that he can use to kind of counter with the takedown. He's going to have to set them up himself. It's really dangerous for him until he can get him on the ground. As soon as he's on the ground, this is Brunson's fight if he can get him to the ground. Do I think he will? Yes. Do I think he'll do it in all 3 rounds or until he gets the finish? I'm umming and ahhing, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go Brunson by decision.
Yeah, I think after the first exchange or so, both guys are going to look to try and keep this fight kind of more or less up against the cage. It's not going to benefit Cannonier, but I think they're both just going to look for a respite from getting cracked, loading up on shots coming the other way. So I think Brunson's going to be able to get some takedowns in. I think Brunson's going to make a close fight pretty miserable for Cannonier. And I'm going Brunson decision as well.
Strong. That takes us off the kind of 3 sort of most significant anticipated fights, but certainly no disappointments with what's coming up because we've got Kyler Phillips, up and coming bantamweight, super exciting star. His ring name is the Matrix. He used to be the Storm, but his dad said that people tend to fight up to their cage names, so he didn't want him to have something like the Storm that might make him reckless. That's why he ended up being the Matrix, which I think is pretty fucking cool. Close loss in his last fight, slightly unexpected. Some people think he won, but that's part of the learning experience when you're a young fighter. He is going up against Marcelo Rojo, who is a fucking beast. Very boxing heavy, but willing to trade, chin like no other, can take a huge amount of damage and stay in the pocket, and he's looking to trade hard punches. So this is going to be a really exciting fight. Two guys that are going to bring the action in different ways. Really hard test for Kyler Phillips. I'm leaning Kyler Phillips on this, but this is a big question to answer. He's fighting an experienced guy who's been in a lot of wars and isn't afraid to take a hit to get to land one himself.
It's hard, yeah. It's hard to say though, because that last fight with Jourdain was at featherweight, right? So how much that gives him a little extra kick, a little extra power. I don't know. I haven't seen Rojo at bantamweight yet. I don't want to do the MMA math. He has got a loss to Castaneda. I'm excited for this fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. I don't feel comfortable picking. I think Kyler Phillips is probably going to be a reasonable favorite on this. It feels like the safe bet, but like you say, like Rojo's a pretty exciting guy. So I'm going to go Phillips by decision. I feel very safe with that one, Matt.
I'll go Phillips by TKO. Starting the card, Bobby the King Green taking on Nasrat Haqparast. I fucking love Bobby Green, man. He's such an exciting guy to watch. So underrated. Haqparast in his pre-fight media scrum was saying that his bigger worry is like, oh man, I just get that sense, as soon as we get in there, he's not going to want to hang with me. He's just going to be looking for the takedown the whole time. And I watched that thinking, I don't think you've watched a lot of tape on Bobby Green, mate. I don't think you have any fucking idea what you're talking about. This guy went up against fucking Rafael Fiziev with no fear whatsoever over his ability to stand there and strike. And that's why I'm picking Bobby Green, man, because however good I think Haqparast is, I think he makes the mistake of thinking that he's a little bit better than he actually is. And if he doesn't understand that he is up against an elite striker, somebody that might seem like they're not using as many weapons as other guys, but is such a good dodger of punches, roller of punches, counter puncher himself. And if you look at that last fight against Iaquinta, somebody that looks like he might be finding his knockout form again.
Yeah.
I'm still going decision.
Here? Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably, in terms of the betting line, probably the closest fight on the card. For me, this is the easiest one to pick. I think even when he was losing, it just felt like he was on a bad run. Even coming into the Iaquinta fight on a 2-fight skid, I wasn't necessarily thinking like you're fighting for your UFC career at this stage. These days, you don't know. They really, the money he's on is as much of a factor as anything. But yeah, you can't sleep on Bobby Green. I'm going to go Green by decision as well.
Going to be a cracker to start the main card off, though.
Have we split the actual fights yet? We've gone the same way on each one.
Yeah, we're identical so far, mate.
Just a couple of methods here.
Yeah. There. So basically, this is going to be like, we're going to know who won the picks, like fucking on the prelims, basically. But you watch it all the next day anyway, so it's
well, you say that. It might come down to the methods.
This is also true. Let's talk about these prelims. Headlining, we have got the legend himself, the former champion, Andre the Pitbull Arlovski, taking on up-and-coming Jared Van Der Raa, who has had a couple of good days in the octagon. He's had a couple of bad days in the octagon. Certainly a tough guy, but my initial thoughts, Arlovski's looked really, really fucking good, and he still looks quick, and he looks light on his feet, and I think he's going to jab and pick and avoid takedowns and do a good job against Van Der Raa. I think he's going to win by decision.
Yeah, he just has the experience. If things do start to go south, he knows how to stall the fight, slow it down. Got to go Arlovski by decision as well. How disappointing. You're gonna stay loyal to Roxy. We're gonna get some separation on this next one.
You're going loyal with Rox?
No, I'm going Casey O'Neill. I'm just trying to find the pick that's going to win me the whole thing.
I know. That's what I'm looking at, because I don't think we're going to have any separation on the prelims. Even the early prelims, mate, we might be fucking shot for shot, and you know whatever happens when we're shot for shot.
Well, I don't know because I think Douglas Silva de Andrade, Sergey Morozov's quite close. I
Okay.
think Malkoun Dobson's close. I don't know which way you're going there.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that.
Um,
I'll give you that.
Lawrence Martinez is a hard one to pick, and I'm interested to see if you go with Grishin or £12, fuck £12, William Knight. But we'll
Well,
get to it after this one. We're both going Casey O'Neill.
this fight is massive. Veteran, legend,
End of an
pioneer.
era.
One of my personal favorites in the MMA game, Roxanne, the Happy Warrior Modafferi, is having her last fight. After 19 years as a professional, fighting at a point when it was not even legal or sanctioned or available or televised for women, she was doing it. And she breaks every single cliche or stereotype that you might have about a person or a woman fighting in something like mixed martial arts. She epitomizes self improvement and the martial arts way. She's that really that kid in all of us that watched the Power Rangers, that watched Dragon Ball Z, that watched whatever your thing was, superhero cartoons, and when, kung fu movies, and when I want to be that. And without having any of the physical gifts that would have, or athletic gifts that would have made it seem like a more understandable choice, she still ended up becoming highly significant and a title challenger in the highest level of mixed martial arts. And I'm a little devastated that to reward her for this last fight, they've given her an absolute fucking cold savage, undefeated killer who
Australian.
has got just the right amount of chip and attitude and self belief and just that little hint of not nastiness, but just, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm not here to care about what you guys are doing. I'm here to win and accomplish my goals. And I've got a horrible feeling that Roxy is going to get quite soundly beaten.
I mean, yeah, like if you look at Roxy's strengths and where you might hope she might do well in this fight, um,
Casey does
mainly
better.
getting someone down and finishing them with those elbows, or trying to get a submission off the bottom. She's going to give up her back too freely. She's going to pull guard even, I suspect. Casey O'Neill is the worst. Is one of the worst women in this division to have on top of you, even in a closed guard. I don't like it. So
she's out scrambled and subbed high level black belts at flyweight. She's more aggressive. She does more damage in the same positions that Roxy looks to get. She lands more submissions. She looks for more
she's about
submissions.
twice as fast.
She's way more willing to trade. Way more willing to trade. She doesn't give a fuck about taking punches. The only thing I'd say is she's very raw. And Roxy has said that she's going to throw the kitchen table. Everything that she's ever practiced in the gym that thought, I can't really get away with doing this, she's going to chuck out there. So she's got 3 super attacks that she swears, win or lose, she will use before the fight is over. So I don't know. I'm picking Casey O'Neill by submission, but I have this image in my mind of what if fight starts and we get a 360-degree tornado kick to the head from Roxanne as Casey's stumbling across. She flips forward into a full-on cartwheel kick and then pulls off like a twister. How fucking awesome would that be?
I don't know, Pena beat Nunes, right? Anything can happen. That won't happen, though. It's just
Yeah. It could be a bit more like, have you ever seen that?
Runs in, lands a rolling thunder, just knocks her out.
Dude, have you seen, did I ever send you that video? Which is, it was called Mummy, I want Jorge Masvidal. And the mum responds, no, we have Diego Sanchez at home. And it's a clip of Masvidal doing the flying knee start to knock out Ben Askren. And then it cuts to when Diego Sanchez, coached by Fabio, tried to do the same thing against Jake Matthews. But instead of it being this athletic running across, landing this precision knee, it's just this kind of like old man waddle to like a half jump.
Who in the back of his mind thinks his opponent has a knife because that's how he trains.
Oh dear.
Just needless.
I'm not looking forward to Kevin Lee versus Sanchez, mate. I know we've talked about this before, but
yeah,
I'm getting those Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell 3 feels about it.
yeah, a little bit. All right, look, Roxy, I think it's almost an 18-year career. I think it was specifically Power Rangers that made her want to be a superhero.
But she's also a big anime person as
definitely
well.
still an Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, started a career off in Japan, which can't be easy. I have so much respect for her, and the difference that she made between bantamweight and flyweight, between her first stint on the Ultimate Fighter and her second stint, and fighting for a belt, just insane. Some of the women she's beat, Barb Honchak, Macy Barber, Andrea Lee, Antonina Shevchenko's almost the big name. And like there were some names back in the day. I remember she beat Valerie Letourneau to get into the Ultimate Fighter House the first time.
That's legit.
Yeah.
Did she fall for the belt, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
it's weird actually. I think Valerie Letourneau was against Jojo Calderwood at the time, was the first UFC flyweight fight, women's flyweight fight, I think.
Was that like a weight miss or something? It is.
No. It was the first official 125 fight, I believe.
You're right.
She had the bra malfunction, turned around, and Jojo was like, "I don't give a fuck about bra malfunctions," and just rocked her.
Was that the head kick?
I don't think it was a head kick in there. It was more like she basically kind of turned around, and Jojo was like, "I'm still gonna like land on you. I'm still gonna throw hooks and still come in on you." I can't remember the entire finishing sequence. I just remember Valerie being like, "Fuck clothes, why do they not work?" And just everything going to shit immediately afterwards. Worse than Bisping pointing at his mouth guard. So the Silva's like, "Well, this is going to hurt more then," and cracking him in the face. And then the knee. Just.
It led to such a great moment, though.
Yeah, fucking did.
We don't have Match now against Alex Perez because Match now refused to fight him with a 2-pound weight miss, which is going to make the story of our next fight way more fun because Maxime Grishin was meant to fight William Knight at light heavyweight. Maxime Grishin weighed in at 206 pounds. William Knight weighed in at 218 pounds. That is a 12-pound miss. Maxime Grishin has flown over from Russia for this fight. He obviously doesn't, it's not just an hour and a half drive home like it might be for, say, a Match now. So he is now willing to take the fight at heavyweight. The difference is he's actually had to cut weight. Very clearly, William Knight either didn't cut weight or did cut weight and was going to be fucking massive. So, out of decency and respect, I'm going to pick Maxime Grishin. Although I think William Knight could very easily knock him out. But I'm going to pick Grishin by decision.
Here we go. This is it. I picked Knight KO before I saw the weigh-ins. When a guy misses weight, it makes me think. When a guy misses weight by 12 pounds, I don't think about it as much. I'm going to go Knight by KO. I just feel like Grishin has a great record, has some big names on there, but against Jacoby, he did look to gas a little bit. He really could have put Dustin away in the first round, possibly, but he was just so tired. And that was the end of the first round. Yeah, I think Knight's got a good shot at just putting him to sleep. Knight by KO.
Fair enough. Early prelims, I think we'll get some separation here. Ronnie Lawrence against Mana Martinez. I'm going Lawrence by TKO.
Lawrence by decision. Give me some heat.
Hernandez against Renato Moicano. Josh, please remind the audience how I feel about Alexander Hernandez.
Alexander Hernandez is bitching non-stop about the fact that he's on the early prelims. This is terrifically on brand for Hernandez.
This isn't
You
to
do
you.
not
This
like
is to
Hernandez.
Hernandez.
You don't like the way he runs his mouth. You don't like the way he fights.
Fuck you.
You love it when he loses. I think there's some
I would
potential
fight
there.
you.
He needs to
I would
shut the
fight
fuck
you,
up.
Alexander Hernandez. I would fight no other UFC person but you. But I would win. No, I wouldn't. I'm kidding. But I would still fight you. I hate you.
Well, he's got a tough fucking proposition in Renato Moicano. The guy is very, very dangerous on the ground. And he's got a good jab. He's a long guy. He can struggle with much, much faster, more technical strikers. But Hernandez kind of just barrels in and tries to be strong and leaves himself quite open. He's going to walk on the end of that jab an awful lot. I think ultimately, Moicano is just going to tag him up a little bit, get him down and sub him.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. Moicano by sub.
And you're going to love every second of it.
It's going to be glorious. Carlos Ulberg. What's his name? Is he Jaguar?
Black Jag.
Black Jag. Taking on Fabio Cherant, who, I didn't know this, but was 7-0 against fighters who aren't in the UFC, and is 0-3 against fighters that currently are in the UFC. Although I think one or two of those was not actually in the UFC when they happened.
No, I think, well, okay, so he lost in the Contender Series.
That
won some fights, got signed to the UFC, lost every UFC fight. So I think he's 0-2 in the UFC, 0-1 on Contender Series. To be honest, at times doesn't look like he's that bad, but he looks to me like a guy that's a little too in love with his hands, but is a little too slow with his punches, leaves himself open and gets rocked. Ulberg looked fantastic against Kennedy and Chechikwu until he got knocked the fuck out. We didn't look fantastic, but he was fucking getting Kennedy to shell up. And other than the stupid shit where he just had his hands just pressing off of like Kennedy's guard, just letting him know exactly when he was moving and where his head was. Either way, I think Ulberg has enough about him to put this kid away. Sharon's gonna, try and fight in a phone booth a little bit. He's gonna leave his hands down, his chin up. Ulberg looked to have some power. He wasn't adverse to putting in some body work. I think it's going to be second time's the charm for the City kickboxing product.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. Ulberg by knockout for me.
Yeah, knockout as well.
AJ Dobson taking on Jacob Malkoun. I don't know a lot about AJ Dobson. I'm going Malkoun by sub.
I thought I'd already made a pick for this. I haven't written it down. I'm going to buy into the hype a little bit. I'm going to go Dobson decision.
Way, we got two separations. Douglas Silva de Andrade taking on Sergey Morozov. This is a fucking hard fight to call. I am going to lean for the crazy man Andrade. Excuse me.
Bless you. I haven't seen too much of the pre-fight stuff, and I haven't actually watched the weigh-in, so I don't know if Andrade is still rocking the mohawk, but it's impossible not to love that man. He's getting on there. He's not young, but he is pretty fucking good. He's got some good wins on his record. I'm going to go Andrade. And even though these guys are just little tiddlywinks, I'm going to go knockout because both of them like stand and bang, and Andrade has shown he's got some fucking power.
Andrade has the physique of what would be a very
John
scary
Lineker.
man if he was not 5'6". He's not 5'6". That's harsh. He's 1.7 meters. What's that? That's like 5.
That probably is.
That's probably about 5'6". Actually,
it's 5'7".
5'7". He's not tall. And then finally, we've got Jeremiah Wells against Blood Diamond. Until I actually looked this up on Tapology, the fact that the entire week UFC have only referred to this guy as Blood Diamond, I literally thought his name was Blood Diamond. And it turns out that is how he prefers to be referred to. His name is Mike Methetha, but for the rest of the UFC, and certainly for the rest of our time on this podcast, he will forever be known as Blood Diamond, because it's the coolest fucking thing I've ever heard. And it sounds like he's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I mean, what were the circumstances of this? Because Jeremiah Wells was supposed to be fighting Tim Means. I don't remember reading about Means pulling out. So I'm assuming because they were supposed to fight, I think, like last week or something.
Well, maybe
And now
means
he's fighting this dude with 3 wins. Maybe Blood Diamond is like the second coming. Who knows? But to
Izzy
me,
says
it
he's the
feels,
second coming.
yeah. Shit. They always back their boys though, and they're not always right. I'm gonna stick with my original pick. I'm gonna go Wells by decision.
I can't not pick a guy whose name is Blood Diamond. It's too fucking cool. And it wouldn't be that cool if he was just like Mike Mathetha and his ring name was Blood Diamond. But the fact that literally, even on the fucking UFC weigh-in card, his name just appeared as Blood Diamond, it's just too fucking cool. So let's go Blood Diamond. Knockout.
How Miguel Baeza won us over.
But I will say this, Jeremiah Wells is a fucking beast. Who did he knock out in his last fight? Was it Wooly Alves?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fucking awesome. So could go either way. Mate, this card is fucking sensational. Like, UFC 270 had two great main events on paper, but there was only a couple of fights that before you actually got there had that kind of like real hype. I'm excited about the first fight on the prelims.
Yeah, this is what I was saying. I don't care if it's 14 fights. It doesn't feel like a long card because there's just a lot of exciting fights here. Even something like, if I was going to pick like the one like I'm the least excited about, maybe like Malkoun Dobson. Actually, there's still a lot of intrigue there, and there's two guys with fantastic records going up against each other. So, in a fun division, a middleweight, there's not a fight I could really lose. Gutted that we're not going to have Perez now. I don't know how much we really got around to talking about it before we started recording, but I do feel like Schnell never should have really got this fight. It's the fourth time it had been rescheduled. He should be fighting someone lower in the rankings. Perez should be making weight, but Perez should be fighting someone around his level in the rankings. It was kind of a weird pairing. I didn't like this fight for Schnell. Part of me thinks, is it just like shit? I'm off the hook now. Technically, I can get out of this fight, so fuck it.
Well, this is what I wonder because you've put all this effort in. You're about to make weight yourself. You've trained. You're not going to earn any money from pulling this out, where you're going to get more money from taking the fight. And like, no disrespect to Chanel, but he's not sitting in like the best of positions. He lost his last fight. It didn't look great. He's had fights, obviously, that have had to be rescheduled. And I think sometimes you've got to read the opponent, like William Knight looks like he hadn't made any effort to cut weight. Alex Perez looked like he'd had a rough fucking night. Yeah. I would have looked at that. No, but seriously, I would have looked at that and think, well, hang on a sec, man. Like, this doesn't. Watch him at the weigh-in, see what the reaction was, and think, well, hang on a sec. Like, this doesn't look like a guy who just didn't try. This looks like a guy who's really struggled. I could get extra money, and I'm not catching him at 100% here. And I'm surprised that he wouldn't have looked at it from that perspective, particularly at £2, because it's not. It suggests that he really pushed it and couldn't, and something's gone wrong. It's when it's over £3 that you kind of think, oh, I don't think you tried.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, Schnell is a very, very good fighter technically. Physically, he's always been a step behind. He's now, he's only 20. Wait, I'm looking at Perez. Perez is 29. How old Schnell? 32. That's a bit more where I thought it was. I wonder if there's a bit of inner turmoil with him, thinking about if he really is going to make a title run of any kind of significance. He's going to have to pick his opponents carefully. And
was it Bontarine who beat him in his last loss? Who did he lose to?
Yeah, Bontarine, Agario Bontarine.
There were moments in that fight where he kept saying some worrying things, like he lost the first round, And the coaches were talking to him. He's like, no, I'm just frustrated because I'm so much better than this guy. And it's not the
Yeah.
attitude. It's not the right attitude to take. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're right on that one, man. I could imagine him being someone that if he makes a realization that he's not going to win a title, that there might be easier ways to earn, money.
Yeah, well, he's also come out and said that he doesn't stand behind like the idea of fighters union and people complaining about fighter pay, which I don't know.
Well, actually, that's a relative subject, mate. In many ways, I think there's a lot of things wrong with the way that they structure contracts, but there will be a lot of people that don't view the amount of money that they earn as unreasonable. It really depends on where your career's at, what the situation is, and I think what your expectations were. Somebody like Schnell, I wouldn't be surprised if he works or earns money as a coach in some way, shape,
Well,
or form.
yeah, he's an American top team, so there would be a tremendous amount of classes to pick up. Um, and that's a team that does kind of promote from within. They take fighters, find them roles as coaches, and even if it doesn't pan out for you at top team, it's not uncommon for coaches and fighters to move from top team to Sanford, vice versa. And you have the other top teams like Atlanta top team. I mean, Diego Lima's retired this week just to focus more on coaching. Atlanta top team, and it's just, yeah, I'm getting too carried away with it. But in my head, it's just this kind of narrative I've got going that Chanel's got one foot out the door, and if it's basically going to be the next loss is going to be a real kind of decider. Do you want to waste your time being a gatekeeper on a lower contract, or do you want to, like you say, like find better ways to make the money? And if he's not going to lose his next fight, he had to pull out of this one. Let's be honest.
Reasonable to say. Reasonable to say.
As a guy that really respects his skill set and enjoys watching him fight, I need to throw in that caveat.
Are you watching it Sunday morning?
I'm thinking about actually getting up for the main card because it starts about 4 o'clock.
Okay, mate.
So
Text me if you do, because this weekend I'm staying up for the UFC, and I'm staying up
yeah,
for the
you've
Super
got
Bowl,
Monday off. So yeah,
and
you're going
I've
to
got
watch the
Monday off.
Super Bowl. I'm working Monday, so what I was thinking is get up early on Sunday, watch the main card, watch the prelims afterwards, go back to bed, get up again, watch the Super Bowl, then go to sleep for a few hours. And my manager is also watching the Super Bowl, so hopefully I have a bit of leeway if I'm tired as fucking working a little slow on Monday.
I like it. I like it. But this is good. This is good because with Sly being away, I have no one else who's willing to stay up to stupid o'clock to watch these sporting events. So I will text you throughout if you manage to wake up for both. Who are you
Which
rooting
shouldn't be a
for?
problem. I've been getting up at 5 like every day for
Oh,
like a
true.
while now. So in my head, I'm like, it's not even really a big deal. Just kind of get up an hour earlier, nap through the day.
Who are
Who
you
am I
rooting
rooting
for?
for? I think I don't know what happened to my voice just then. I think the Rams are gonna win, but I kind of like the way I like both team stories here or there. I like Joe Burrows. I like Jamar Chase. I would like to see Matthew Stafford. Um, get some respect, get some accolades, because even when he was playing well for the Lions, people would still complain or say,
Yeah.
it's all Megatron, it's all Calvin Johnson, and he still underthrows him, or leaves them in bad positions on jump balls. It's like shit, though. A lot of other quarterbacks just missed completely on these. You lot just aren't happy, and it's understandable. You're Detroit Lion fans. Your team fucking sucks. Of course, you're not happy.
I The only factor of why I wouldn't mind the Rams winning is Stafford. Because I don't really want to see the Rams win, but I'd love to see Stafford get the Super Bowl that puts him into that, Drew Brees category, Aaron Rodgers category to a certain extent. He's, Russell Wilson, and these are very much his kind of his peers around him in his time.
Yeah.
So, and particularly Aaron Rodgers, who for years has said like this guy's as good as any of us. Like none of you appreciate it because he plays for the Lions, but like you're all going crazy because Mahomes is doing no look passes. Stafford's been doing no look passes for fucking years, and nobody gives him any credit for it. I don't know. I just feel like if Joe Burrow was on the team that was his usually more successful, I'd kind of say like, kid, you're so talented, you're going to be back at like 3 of these. Let Stafford have his moments, and then you can have yours. But this is the fucking Bengals, man. Like they might not be back here for another 40 years, 30 years. So this might be his only shot to bring them some success. So fucking let's go Bengals. Kitty goes meow.
Yeah, fuck it. Either way, I'm just kind of interested in it because if it can't be the Eagles against someone, then fuck it. I'm
Well,
kind
at
of
least
glad
it's
that
not
it
the
worked out
Cowboys.
this way.
At
It was
least
never going to be the Cowboys. The Cowboys fucking suck.
I'm so
Forever and
pleased.
always.
I'm so pleased we didn't hire their offensive coordinator,
Oh,
Kellen Moore.
yeah.
Man, I'm liking the new Dolphins coach, man. He had a very emotional press conference, but he's a very intelligent guy. Super, super clever. You can tell that. And his whole philosophy is tailoring everything specifically for the players at hand. There's none of this, we'll try and fit square pegs into round holes. Everything's going to be designed to maximize what the team can do. And it's kind of cool, man. It's just all about hiring the right offensive and defensive coaches around them now. Free agency, the draft, all very exciting. None of our UFC fans give a fuck about the NFL though, but you certainly should watch the Super Bowl if you've got nothing else to do on Sunday night and you don't have work on Monday. It's going to be great. Great fights this
Watch anyway.
weekend. 6 nations, regular football. It's a weekend packed with great sports. Give us your thoughts on what your predictions for the fights are as well in the comments. Tell us how you think the results are going to go. And then what we can do, since it's just me versus Josh at the moment, is when we then do the show next week, we'll go through and we'll do the challenge between me and Josh. And then if anybody else beats us, we'll sort of give them a shout out as well. Click a like and subscribe. Enjoy your weekend, guys. And bye, Dave. Bye, Laurie. Bye, Trifo. Take care.
Bye, Laurie. Bye, Dave.